According to state corrections officials, Roy Lewis Norris died. He was one of the so-called toolbox killers.
What if a simple ride turned into a nightmare? Meet Lawrence Baker and Roy Norris.
Notorious for preying on teenage girls in Southern California more than 40 years ago.
The toolbox killers who used a van as a mobile torture chamber.
They touched Miss Ledford on the breast with cold metal pliers. And if you listen to the tape, you'll hear those pliers being replaced in the toolbox a few seconds later.
For 5 terrifying months, they hunted young women in Southern California.
He and another man kidnapped, raped, tortured, and murdered 5 girls in 1979.
Their crimes shocked a nation, but how did they stay free so long?
Their nickname comes from the tools they used on victims, like a screwdriver, pliers, and ice pick.
Don't miss this chilling story that will change the way you see safety forever. Watch now before it's too late, because what you don't know could cost you everything. The toolbox killers, Lawrence Baker and Roy Norris, were 2 of the most terrifying criminals in Southern California history. Together, they became known as the toolbox killers. They earned this name because they used tools like pliers, ice picks, and sledgehammers to torture their victims in the back of a van. Their crimes were not only brutal but also terrifyingly planned. The 2 men met in prison, where their shared dark desires brought them together. After they were released, they teamed up to kidnap, torture, rape, and murder young women. They kept recordings of their crimes, showing how cruel and evil they really were. The toolbox killers' attacks lasted only 5 months, but in that short time, they caused horror that still haunts many today. Their victims were not strangers or easy targets. These were young girls with families desperately searching for them. Despite the evil of their acts, Baker and Norris were able to hide in plain sight for months, using a silver van they called Murder Mac to carry out their sick plans. This story is a chilling reminder of how dangerous people can be when their darkest urges go unchecked. How they met. Lawrence Baker and Roy Norris first crossed paths in a California prison. Both men had long criminal records filled with violence, theft, and sexual crimes. Prison life gave them a chance to talk and discover their shared hatred and twisted desires. They bonded over their evil fantasies of hurting innocent women. This friendship was the start of a dark partnership that would terrorize Southern California. Before meeting Baker, Norris had already been involved in violent assaults and sexual crimes. Baker, known for his high IQ but dangerous behavior, also had a long history of crimes. Together, they planned to make their darkest fantasies come true by working as a team. After they were released from prison, they reunited and began preparing for their crimes. They bought a van with no windows in the back, which they called Murder Mac. This van would be their mobile torture chamber. They equipped it with ropes, pliers, knives, and a tape recorder to capture the screams of their victims. Their meeting in prison was the beginning of one of the most terrifying crime sprees in American history. Their evil friendship fueled a series of kidnappings and murders that shocked the nation. Their dark crimes, Lawrence Baker and Roy Norris committed some of the most horrifying crimes in Southern California's history. Together, they kidnapped, tortured, raped, and murdered young women. Their crimes were not random acts of violence. They were carefully planned and extremely brutal. Using their van, which they called Murder Mac, they would lure victims by offering them drinks, marijuana, or rides. Once inside the van, the women were trapped, tied up, and tortured with tools like pliers, ice picks, and sledgehammers. The killers even recorded the screams of their victims, showing how cruel and sadistic they truly were. Their violence wasn't just physical. They used psychological torture to break their victims' spirits. The fear of being trapped in a moving van, not knowing where they were going, and what would happen next added to the horror. Though their killing spree lasted only 5 months, the damage they caused was immense. Many of their victims never returned, and the pain left behind devastated families and communities. Baker and Norris showed no mercy, and their crimes are remembered as some of the darkest in American criminal history. The Van of Terror, the van, known as Murder Mac, was at the center of Lawrence Baker and Roy Norris's horrific crimes. This silver 1977 GMC Vandura had no windows in the back, making it the perfect trap for their victims. They modified it to be soundproof so no one outside could hear the screams inside. Inside the van, they created a torture chamber. There was a makeshift bed, flooring covered with carpet, and a hidden toolbox filled with knives, pliers, and other cruel tools. They even rigged the van with devices to spray oil or explode if the police tried to stop them, showing how far they planned to go to avoid capture. The van was more than just a vehicle. It was a mobile prison where innocent girls were kidnapped, tortured, and killed. Baker and Norris used it to drive to remote areas like the San Gabriel Mountains, where they would carry out their cruel acts without interruption. This van became a symbol of fear in Southern California. Families and communities were terrified of seeing it, knowing what it meant. Murder Mac was the deadly weapon that allowed these two men to commit their gruesome crimes for months before they were finally caught. Victims and murders, Lawrence Baker and Roy Norris targeted young women, many of whom had families who desperately searched for them. Their victims ranged in age from early teens to late teens, all innocent and full of life before their encounters with the killers. The two men used tricks like offering drinks, marijuana, or rides to lure these girls into their van. Many of the victims were last seen leaving places like churches, bus stops, or social events, trusting strangers in their time of need. Baker and Norris took advantage of their trust and innocence, dragging them away to isolated locations. Despite the horror of the situation, some victims showed remarkable courage and presence of mind. One victim managed to escape and alert authorities, which helped start the investigation. The families of the victims suffered greatly, not only because of their loss, but also because some of the bodies were never found. This left questions and pain that never fully healed. The story of these young girls reminds us of the importance of vigilance and protecting loved ones. Capture and trial. The capture of Lawrence Baker and Roy Norris finally ended their reign of terror. Their downfall began when Norris bragged about their crimes to a fellow inmate who reported him to the police. Authorities quickly set up surveillance and arrested Norris on parole violations. Baker was also arrested soon after for similar reasons. Evidence found in their van and homes, including photos and a tape recording, linked them to the crimes. One victim who had escaped helped identify them, strengthening the case. Both men were charged with multiple counts of kidnapping, rape, and murder. During the trial, Norris agreed to testify against Baker in exchange for a lighter sentence. The courtroom was filled with emotion, especially when the horrific audio tapes were played. In 1981, Baker was found guilty and sentenced to death, while Norris received a long prison sentence. Their trial showed the justice system's effort to hold them accountable and bring closure to the victims' families. Their capture stopped a dark chapter in California's history. Lessons to stay safe. The story of Lawrence Baker and Roy Norris teaches us important safety lessons. Always be aware of your surroundings and trust your instincts. If a situation feels unsafe, try to get to a public place or seek help immediately. Avoid getting into vehicles with strangers, no matter how friendly they seem. Stay connected with family and friends by letting them know where you are. Carry personal safety tools like pepper spray if legal in your area, and learn how to use them properly. If you feel threatened or think someone might be following you, head straight to the nearest police station or a busy place. Remember, it's better to be cautious than sorry. Protecting yourself and your loved ones is always the top priority. Stay alert, stay safe, and don't let anyone make you an easy target. If you found this story gripping, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join our community for more true crime stories. What do you think is the most important lesson from the Toolbox Killers case? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you. And don't miss our next video, the bank robbery that turned into a national mystery. Stay safe and stay aware!